Today we have Mike Meadows with us. He's going to tell us his journey of addiction to recovery. He started at 15 years old, and he's 42 now.
No, I'm 43 now.
43, but you have a year now, right?
Right.
All right. And he has full custody of his son, but I'm going to let him tell you that story. So take it away, Mike. It's all yours.
All right. My name's Michael Meadows. My recovery date is 4/11/2019. I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. Not only do I have a sponsor, I have a counselor. I have a volunteer for Boys and Home Girls group with a parenting caseworker also. She's involved for 2 years. I have to go to any lengths of my recovery because I can't do this alone. So
Right.
Not only do I have a sponsor, I reach out to others too for the help I need. I also am clean and sober from no mind-altering substance. That's why I have a counselor. All right, so I'll start off with I was adopted. I was adopted when I was 7 or 8 months old. I'm not sure. It was never allowed to be talked about in my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always felt like I was different. And then when I was told at 7 years old when I was adopted. And I have an older sister and a little sister, but not by blood. And we were playing hide and go seek one night. And it was a school night. And I always hid in the dryer. And they could never find me. That's why I always went to the dryer and hid. But the game was over and it was a school night. And they sat us down on the stairs when I was 7. And they told me that I was adopted, that they wasn't my real mom and dad. And that's what started the ball rolling for me. I didn't know what adoption was at 7 years old. It crushed me. I didn't know if I was playing the game wrong or not, but I was crying. I can remember it vividly. We were sitting on the stairs. My older sister was behind me and my little sister was in front of me and I was in the middle. And hey, Clark. And so that right there crushed me. So through my childhood, I rebelled. I got kicked out of school. They put me in a private school. It was tough. I had to ride my bike from home to school. I did that. I always got in trouble in the neighborhood. I was wild and crazy, and I was always trying to get attention. Because that's the only way I knew how to get attention from my mom and dad. They were always workers. They always traveled. We grew up with a nanny. They wasn't never around. They were, but they wasn't. And, it was very hard for me in my childhood years. And to fast forward, when I turned 15, by the way, my parents graduated from University of Georgia. My dad was a pharmaceutical, and he went to Eckerd's and became part of Eckerd's. So we moved every 3 years in the southeastern region since I was 12 years old. So that was hard.
You felt like you had no roots anywhere. You find out you're adopted. You're moving all over the place. Where do you fit in?
Yeah, I never did fit in, and I never got to grow up with my friends or anything. So that was real tough. It was real hard. But, I kept going to all these different schools and, meeting new people. I know a lot of people, but I didn't get to grow up with any of my friends.
Right.
It was really, really tough. So at age 15, we moved to Summerville, South Carolina, which is outside of Charleston. And that was a high school.
I'm in South Carolina.
Yeah, that was a very big high school. It was section 9th and 10th grade and 11th and 12th on another campus. It was a huge high school. And I was never used to that because it had cliques. It had your preps, your country, your blacks, your whites, and I was considered a wigger because I was in between like black and whites or whatever. But, you know, that's when the ball got rolling for me in my alcoholism and addiction. I as I was growing up, I was never good at school. I couldn't sit still. I had ADHD. They had me on Ritalin. I've been to plenty of counseling. You know, and I just couldn't focus in school. I was just trying to fit in, man, and I kept to myself though. But I always acted out in school. I was a class clown. You know, I was put in smaller classes. They thought that would be better for me, but I was never there to really even try. I was a class clown. I skipped school, you know, and then I got introduced to alcohol and cocaine. And by this year, I think I was in ninth grade, I totally quit school, and I had this great idea that I was going to run the streets and do my own thing. I didn't need school. And I was drinking and doing cocaine. That was my drug of choice right there. I like the balance of those two.
Right. And suddenly you fit in, because as long
Right.
as you're all doing it together,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yes.
Yeah, all
So,
those feelings of not fitting in just kind of go away when we discover, you know, the mind-altering substances.
right. So I'm a real emotional person. I don't know why I am that way, but I always hit it. I hit it real well. And then with alcohol and cocaine, that was my way to deal with my emotions and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And it put this mask on that I was invisible and hard and all this stuff. And you know, I quit school. Like I said, I started running the streets. I was doing my own thing. And that's how the ball really got started rolling for me. Is I was always, you know, just doing whatever I wanted to do. It was me against the world. That was my attitude. You know, I didn't care about consequences or nothing. I did what I wanted to do. And with alcohol and drugs, man, it made me even invincible. So
right. Now, what were your parents doing while you were doing this?
My parents, they let me live at home. They wasn't, you know, okay with my decisions, what I was doing, but I hid it from them. They knew I was drinking, but not like that. They didn't know about the drugs until later on in my life. But my dad was like, well, since you're going to do what you're going to do and not follow the rules and stay in school, you need to go get your GED. And I always like, okay, I will. And, you know, I never did. And then, you know, moving every 3 years, I had to get a job. My first job was a bagger boy at Winn-Dixie, I think it was, when they first opened up in South Carolina. And you know, I made tips. I was a bagger, you know, but that didn't last long. That didn't last long at all. I was stealing alcohol from them. I was still ripping and running the streets, you know, doing my own thing. And then, you know, we moved again, and then I think we moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, which it's Hickson outside of Chattanooga, up on the ridge. And I would try to go back to school, but it was just to meet people and find more connections, what I was doing. And I met my first girlfriend there, and I was selfish, and I thought having a family would fix me. And so I purposely got her pregnant. I was 17, she was 16.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, she got pregnant, and then her mom found out and said, if I don't marry her, she will have it aborted. And I was adopted. I don't believe in abortion or adoption at the time, but I was also young too. So I agreed to get married. We got married when I was 18. She was 17. My first child wasn't even born yet. She was pregnant for the wedding. That marriage, I ended up having 2 kids with her. That marriage lasted 3 years, but it was very toxic. We were very young, using drugs together. You know, I did work for her dad, making pretty decent money, had my own company truck, doing boiler work. But that didn't last. And then we moved again, and I'm trying to figure out, we moved to Asheville, North Carolina from there. And then that's my alcoholism and addiction got worse up there. I kept getting in trouble. I've gotten several DUIs since then. I think I was on number 4 at the time then. I don't remember how old I was. I started going to the hood to get my drugs, and I was getting ripped off and robbed and all that. But I had this great idea that I was going to keep coming back and show my face and get what I wanted to get, no matter the consequences. I didn't care.
Right. We don't care.
No, absolutely not. And I was going to make it known that I was going to keep coming back no matter what. And, as time went on, I ended up, my parents started finding out what I was doing. I kept getting in trouble, getting arrested. I have felonies, I have misdemeanors, I've been to prison 3 times.
Now, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes.
Now, around this time, were you having any contact with your first family?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
And then, can I ask you what your felonies were?
Yes, I have felony larceny, felony credit card fraud, credit card theft, felony checks, felony check frauds. And I have a whole bunch of, I don't remember all my charges. I was always messed up, so I don't remember everything.
And it's usually a way to get money.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll explain that situation, how I got those charges. I will go back. My first bid was a year in Columbia, South Carolina, in Bush River Road. Age 15, we were partying in Charleston, and the high school wrestling team was over there. And that's what we did. My parents were always gone. We threw parties at our house, and the wrestling team was over there, and they wanted to go down the street and hook up with some girl that we went to school with in my neighborhood, and we were all drunk and high, and I heard they wanted to jump me, and they was going to go no matter what. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm like, we live in a nice neighborhood. That's stupid. Right. So I got my dad's gun, and I went upstairs and got his .45 revolver, and they started walking down the street, so I went after them, and they circled me. They was going to jump me, whatever, so I pulled the gun out. My intentions were not to kill anybody or anything like that at the time, but I did pull the gun out when they circled me, and I shot it up in the air, and they got scared and scattered. And I went and got in my lowrider truck, because I was in the lowriders at that time. I think that was in 1991. And put the gun in the seat and drove around the neighborhood to cool off. And the next thing I know, 15 cops came from all the entrances of the neighborhood, were chasing me through the neighborhood at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I was rushing back home, and I jumped the driveway in my lowrider truck to get in the garage. And as I got out to hit the garage button, all the cops had swarmed the house and had guns drawn on me and told me if I moved, they were going to shoot me.
Wow.
And I was that close from shutting the garage, because I knew I had the gun, but I was so messed up, I didn't know what to do. It happened so fast, and I didn't get to shut the garage. So that was my
15.
15. My first bid was a year in Columbia, South Carolina. That was the roughest. It was juvenile, because I wasn't an adult yet. That was a rough time for me. But I did end up getting out on good behavior. I made the basketball team. I love basketball. Always played basketball. And they let me go. I was looking at 15 months or a year and 15 months, something like that. But they let me go in a year because I made the basketball team. So, back to moving back to Asheville and the gangs. I mean, the hood and all that. It got really, really bad. So I thought the good idea was to move back to Charleston at the time, and I ended up now, mind you, I've worked in the restaurant from 18 to 42, so I got 26, 27 years of restaurant experience, because that was easy to get alcohol and find my drugs, especially cocaine.
Yes.
And, Coso's there on the Little River. and I hooked up with another girl there that was a bartender, and we ended up, dating, and then she got pregnant, and I got 2 kids by her, and we got married at the courthouse, and that didn't fix that problem either.
Right.
I was out there working, and then on my off time, I was going to hole in the wall clubs, doing the rave scene with techno and rap and all that stuff, doing the glow sticks. But then it introduced me to not just cocaine and alcohol. It introduced me to ecstasy and ketamine, and I've done some acid too. So then I became affiliated with the Hells Angels down there, because they could get the coke and ketamine, and they were telling me how I could get it. We were breaking into veterinarian clinics,
Wow,
at the hole in the wall bars while we were raving and all that. I would have girls go in there and scope it out before we would figure out how to get through the back door and know exactly where the ketamine was. And we were still in vials of ketamine, and then cooking it up and selling it into powder. And then the potent only lasts for 24 hours once you cook it down. So, then, with my second wife, we had 2 kids. That didn't last but 3 years, I think, 3-4 years. Moved back to Asheville, got away from the Hells Angels. Then I came back to Asheville. It just got worse. I kept coming back to the hood. I got in with the hood. I started, I worked the whole time because I always chased money. Money was my thing. Money solved all my problems.
Right. Money and family.
Money was my go-getter to solve all my problems so I could get what I needed to get.
Right.
But then I kept doing my thing, and, I got in with the hood, and I started meeting the plugs, and I started, doing things for them that, my sponsor knows about. I really don't want to go into details about that.
That's fine.
And it just escalated from there, man. Like I never slept. I never slept. When I did, my body would shut down and I would get sleep. But I've lost so many jobs because I would always call in or just no call, no show. But they would bend over backwards for me because I was so good at what I was doing. I knew how to interact with people. I was basically a bullshitter. So I knew how to con my way to get my money.
We're good at that. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I also with the credit cards, I knew how to bypass all that stuff too, and make extra money too. Crazy, insanity.
It's amazing. If we would just put some of, like 5% of the effort that we put in and the skills that we used for drugs and alcohol into something positive, I mean, it'd be amazing, the results that we would get.
Yes, absolutely. And then, I moved back to Asheville. My dad found out he had prostate cancer. They gave him a year to live. He ended up not making it a year. And that's when it really got bad for me. He only lasted 6 months, but I got the opportunity to move home and help my mom. But now, remind you, my family situation was very unhealthy, very negative, and then coming back into that scene when he was dying of prostate cancer. I was there, but I was always high and drunk. That's how I dealt with it. I ended up
mentally and emotionally there, just physically.
Yes, absolutely. I was always I wasn't working. I was just doing my thing, and I was stealing from my family because they had money. The people I was running with never had money, but I was basically doing it for me, but also to keep my associates with me too, because I didn't want to lose the connections I had.
Right.
So I was stealing my mom's briefcase of jewelry, all her bottles of wine that she got from all over the country, drinking that. I was stealing her car. My dad was out of it. He didn't know what was going on. On probation, basically my whole life. I was in and out of courts, through this process. I didn't know how to deal with it. It got to the point where my dad was getting really sick. He ended up looking like an Ethiopian because he couldn't hold down food. He was getting water in his brain. He couldn't function. So I would steal my mom's car, and I stole my dad's credit cards and activated them after he passed away. And I had this bright idea, well, I can't get in trouble for this. He's deceased, so they shouldn't let me activate his cards even though I had his social security number and birthday. That's all I had to do on the phone is activate it that way. And he had unlimited credit. So, you know, I activated 15 credit cards, and that's how supplying the hood, my addiction, my alcoholism, I was I was the man at the time. But, you know, it just, now that I'm clear-headed, it was the stupidest thing. Like, I didn't care. I went to any lengths of my addiction and alcoholism, and I didn't care who got in my way, who I hurt, what I did, even my family. And you know, when the funeral came, I was so messed up. I went to a friend's house, and this was the day before his wake, and I was so messed up on coke and alcohol. I didn't want to live. I took my dad's shotgun. I went to the guy's house. He couldn't deal with me, so I went down in the basement with the shotgun, and I had it upright against me sitting on the couch in his basement in the dark. And I don't remember what happened, what stopped me, whatever, but I just remember waking up, and this dude was in my face yelling at me, slapping me, waking me up. I guess I fell asleep or blacked out. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
But I woke up, and I knew my dad's wake was there the next morning that we had to go to, and I procrastinated. My next drunken high was more important than making it on time. And I went to my parents' house and was rambling through their stuff and trying to get my fix, and I did. And I ended up making it, but I was late. And as soon as I walked in, by this time, my family knew what I was doing. They were done with me. They would just allow me to be there for my dad.
Right.
And first thing, as soon as I walked in, they accused me of stealing his Rolex watch because of all the stuff I did with my mom and credit cards and stuff. And I honestly didn't steal that. I didn't steal his Rolex watch. Now, if I would have found it, maybe I would have done that. But at the time, I don't know, because it didn't happen. But I promised and promised, and it became an ugly scene at my dad's wake. And I just kept crying and pleading and, you know, telling them, but who am I to make someone convince them that they believe that I didn't do it after all the crap I was doing? I didn't understand that.
We lie ourselves into a corner and then expect people to believe us when we're telling the truth.
Absolutely. So, you know, I ended up leaving, and then, you know, that's when I really got heavy, and I didn't want to live. I lost my dad. He was a rock of our family, and he never gave up on me, even though he wasn't there for me the way I wanted him to as a father-son relationship. But he always bailed me out of trouble, and he was always there to support me no matter what. But I ended up being homeless. They gave me tough love. I couldn't live there. I ended up being homeless, went to a homeless shelter. But the homeless shelter in Hendersonville, North Carolina is right in the hood, right where I was copping and doping and drugging and drinking and doing all my crazy stuff.
Right.
So that was hard for me. But I ended up doing a 8-month Bible recovery program there just because I was selfish. I didn't want to be on the streets from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. You know, I wanted to stay in and, you know, recuperate or whatever. But, you know, that was a religious program, and that didn't work for me. I completed the 8 months, but as soon as I got out, I went right back to what I was doing. And I was not honest the whole time. I was still doing my thing on the side. They didn't know about it. And, you know, after that, I didn't go back. I remember breaking in cars and stealing and robbing and doing whatever I had to do to eat and survive and get my fix of alcohol and drugs. And, you know, that went on for a long period of time. And then, you know, when I wasn't allowed at home, I broke in, stole my mom's car. And then that's when I did the credit card things. And I was gone. Remind you, I was on probation. I had an ankle bracelet on at the time too, but that didn't stop me either.
Right.
You know, I was supplying the hood. I was bringing them flat screen TVs, DS's, whatever they wanted. They liked electronics. They liked jewelry. I would even figure out a way to get them those gift cards, you know, with hundreds of dollars on it, or $500 or whatever they needed, just so I could get. I'm the type of person that I have to have an amount of cocaine and an amount of alcohol, and I always kept the cheap alcohol. It was King Cobras was my favorite thing. I drank about 4 or 5 a day, and I didn't care about drinking and driving. I always drunk and drive, and I always carried cocaine on me just because I love the balance. But I ended up, I think I was gone for like 2 weeks, and I was in a hotel, and I just was trying to kill myself with drugs and with cocaine and alcohol. And I almost got there. I got a hold of this batch, and I was in a hotel, and I didn't know at the time, but it had rat poison in it. And I knew who it came from, and I was going back to them that night to take care of them. And but I never made it because I felt like I was going to die. And then I was thinking about my dad, and I was thinking like, well, I'm about to go meet my dad. I'm about to die. They called, the people that were with me called the ambulance. By the time they got there, they, you know, I was on probation. They told me, the cops showed up. They told me to ride with them. The cops couldn't do anything if I went with them. So I went with them. Come to find out it had rat poison in it. But they said I was so high that I felt like I was going to die, but my heart was just racing too fast. Yeah. But it had rat poison in it too. So I could have, I don't know. I made it through, but then, you know, after that, I just, you know, I returned my mom's car back, and I went to take a shower in her house, and she wasn't there. I broke back in. It's a gated community neighborhood in Nashville, and I know how to break into things. So I broke in, took a shower, and next thing I know, while I'm in the shower, the police was there. And I own everything I did, but I always try to not get caught too.
Oh, right. Of
course.
I
was surrounded. There was nothing I can do. So I finally opened the door, and it's like, Mr. Meadows, how you doing? I was like, yeah, I know what time it is. And they took me to jail. I went to the county in Buncombe County for 9 months in a single cell. I couldn't get out but 1 hour a day. The reason I stayed in a single cell for 9 months was because I was trying to fight the case, because I have other charges pending and stacked up, and I didn't want to get hit in the head with all the charges I had. And so I didn't get to fight it. My mom came to court, and she totally started crying and make the judge feel sorry for her, and went against everything. Like, she basically was tired of it and disowned me. Mm-hmm. So I ended up copping a plea with them, and going to prison. And I told them that they would consolidate all my charges together, no restitution, nothing, just do my time to got the bus up. So so they did that, and I went to prison. This is the third time I went to prison. It was 2008 to 2010, and then I got released from there. And by the way, while I was in prison, I was the man on camp, because I've been cutting hair since 15 till now, just for a hobby. I enjoy cutting hair, so I was a barber on prison, on state. And that helped me. I had no canteen, no family support, no letters, no money coming in. So I hustled tobacco, drugs. I did special haircuts and facials, and that's how I survived. But you know.
So even in prison, we all know, I mean, let's face it, we all know there's drugs in prison. So yes. Even in prison, you weren't getting clean.
No, absolutely not. Right. No, we were making buck the whole time. That's some nasty stuff. I don't recommend it, but I will say that's how bad my alcoholism. It didn't matter. If it got me drunk, I'm going to do it. If it got me high, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Not only that, I've drinking mouthwash to get high. I mean, mouthwash. I mean, how gross is that? But I didn't care. I wanted that feeling, so I didn't have to feel. And yeah, when I got out of prison, I had this great idea. No, before I got out of prison, I want to say this. This is how manipulative I was. I did get my GED in prison, but I cheated. There was a guy in prison that looked just like me. So I conned him. I would give him free haircuts and facials. And I never understood why everybody wants to look good in prison. I understand for family visits, but these guys were coming in like 3-4 times a week. I don't know if I was that good or they just wanted to look nice in prison or what the case was, but I didn't question it. But this guy conned him into going in and cheating on my test and taking a test for me. So I gave him my state ID, and he looked just like me, and he went in and he passed everything for me. Now, remind you, this is how I didn't care. We had a fire drill that day, and I thought we was going to get busted because they do head counts and stuff, and they were in there taking tests, and they had us separated. Now I'm out here on one side of the yard, and he's on the other side of the yard, and all they didn't even look at the IDs. They just did head counts, and I don't understand how these teachers didn't know we wasn't the same people, but it is what it is. But you know, like I would always try to figure out a way to make things easier for me, even though it was hard, or con or cheat. Still, a lot that was me. I was a selfish, horrible person. But back to when I decided to get out, when I was getting out of prison, I had nowhere to go. So I had this bright idea. All the crap that I've been to, I wasn't going to be homeless no more. I wasn't going to go to no recovery program no more. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to do that. But I had to bullshit myself into a halfway house, and they were going to drop me off in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm not from there. I don't know anybody there, but I conned my way into getting to a halfway house. I ended up getting remind you, I've never had a license since I was 15. I got them taken away after my third DUI by the time I was 18. So I went to Raleigh, got in the halfway house. I got a job at this New York pizza place, but it sold entrees too. It was a family-owned restaurant. And, you know, I had everybody convinced that I'm on the right path, doing this, doing that. And but I wasn't. It was just a job because you had to have a job in a halfway house, and you had to follow rules and stuff like that. So I lied my way through that again. And I did hold the job down. I did what I was supposed to do to a certain extent, just to keep my bed in the halfway house. But I was out there selling drugs. Made myself known in the hood. It's a big area. It's a bigger town. It's a fresh start for me. I can do this whole repeated thing. But I was going to get on top again. Yep. I was going to get on top this time, and I was going to make it, and I was going to become the plug. And it took me a long time. I'm going to say a long time to get in the hood and keep coming around. And I'm going to tell you, I did some horrible things. I've robbed people. I've gone after the plugs. I kept going back to the hood, making myself known. I was living one life, but I was living another. But my main goal was to be rich and become the plug, so I would never have to get in a situation where I could run out of my cocaine. And I mean, I always had alcohol, I was always drinking, but I was never going to run out of cocaine. And you know, like I said, my sponsor knows everything, so I don't want to get into glorifying what I was really, really doing out there.
Right.
But I ended up becoming one of the plugs, and I was running with the Bloods and Crips, but I was more Crip than Blood. We got along. We were partying together, but when it was time to separate and do our thing, we had to go to our ends. But I was involved in that, and I was doing some crazy things, but I ended up becoming the plug, like I said. And I ended up meeting Clark's MOM. We met in Hickory, North Carolina. I was 13. I think we dated for like off and on for like a year, but we lost contact over 25 years. And she moved to Raleigh. She was the director over Johnson and Lexus Corporation up there. She was doing really good. We found each other on Facebook, and she came to the New York pizza restaurant, family-owned restaurant I was working at, and I bought her a glass of wine. We got called up, and then I was still living at the halfway house, but I got kicked out because I finally failed my drug test. So she convinced me to move in with her. I moved in with her, and we were back together after 25 years. And I was basically using her for a place to stay because I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't want to live in the hood. It was hard for a white boy to be in the hood. It really was. It was really, really hard. But, you know, I didn't know at the time. She didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what she was doing. I thought her head was on right, doing the right thing. But like I said, I was using her for a place to live. But I did care about her. But it got to the point where I knew something wasn't going on. She was taking pills, but I didn't know it was more than that. But like I said, she didn't know what I was doing. But I always, if I lost my job in the restaurant, it was so many, I kept a restaurant job. Right. When I moved in with her, I quit the New York style restaurant with them because I was so far out. I was in Wake Forest at the time, and they were in the middle of Raleigh, so it was hard to get to work with no car and license. So, like I said, she ended up getting pregnant with Clark, and I knew something was going on because she wasn't coming home at night. It got really, really ugly between us. It got basically toxic, but I still stayed because of Clark, and she would come to find out that she was doing more than just pills. Now we stayed together and was trying to work it out, but it was just a lot on both ends. And
right.
By the time Clark was ready to be born, you know, she just lost her mom. She's already lost her dad, and she lost her mom 3 weeks before Clark was born. So she was depressed, plus whatever she was doing. And so when Clark was born 3 weeks early, 3 weeks to a month early. That's when I didn't think he was gonna make it, because I've never seen. I've been through 4 pregnancies, and I've never seen someone throw up green. I don't even know how to describe it. I just know the color was green, and it didn't look right. I thought she was basically throwing Clark up. I didn't know what was going on. Even though I knew that he was fully grown in her stomach, it freaked me out. And I'm like, you know, something's going on here. So we rushed her to the hospital, and they induced her labor. And then that's when I found out she has been doing heroin the whole time.
Oh, wow.
So he was born in addiction off heroin plus what I was doing. And he almost didn't make it. He got put in the NIC unit for almost a month, and I quit my job in one of the restaurants I was working at. And I stayed in the NIC unit with him the whole time. And they were winging him off of methadone and watching him shake and withdrawals. And
yeah, that had to be
hard. It was the horriblest thing I ever seen an innocent child have to go through that.
I can imagine. Actually, I can't imagine. So, yeah.
But not even that stopped me from what I was doing or her. DSS got involved the first time that time. And they, you know, I was the one that was not doing anything wrong. I had everybody convinced I wasn't doing anything. I was clean and sober and blasey. But she had no choice. They knew she was on heroin and pills. And the DSS told her she didn't go get help, she couldn't be a part of Clark's life. So that's another reason why I quit my job, was to take care of him. And she finally agreed to go to rehab, and I spent $30,000 for her to go to Pavilion in Black Mountain. And because she was too good to go to a homeless shelter or a free rehab or whatever. She needed a luxury rehab. But yeah, she went, and then I stayed in Raleigh and Wake Forest at our townhouse, and I wasn't no better. I was letting the gang members come around Clark. I was selling drugs. I was doing what I had to do that I thought was best for me and Clark, because I had no job and I couldn't get any food stamps or Medicaid or nothing for it. Well, I did get Medicaid, but they wouldn't help me because they thought I was able to work. And so I was trapping out of my Raleigh house with Clark there, and I let some bad things happen around Clark, and I was using cocaine and drinking all the time. Mm-hmm. And I never slept because I had to feed him every 3 hours. He went everywhere with me. I did take him to see his mom every Sunday. That was a 10-hour trip. So this boy's basically, since he's been born, been an addiction himself, and been on the road most of his life, because I traveled selling my drugs and doing what I had to do to take care of us, and going to visit his mom. And finally I got DSS convinced. She came and do checkups, but I was high the whole time. I don't even know how she didn't know I was high. I don't know how she didn't smell it. Like, I did all forms of cocaine. I shot it, I smoked it, I cooked it. I did whatever I had to do because I was a seller too, you know? Mm-hmm. And I didn't just sell cocaine. I was making my own heroin, but I didn't put fentanyl in it because even though I was trying to be hard and make money, I didn't have the conscience of knowing I could kill somebody. But it didn't even matter. That's my way of my disease thinking, is money, money, money. I still could have killed somebody, you know? Mm-hmm. And yeah. But anyways, so I finally got all my money together and saved up, and the opportunity came that we could move to Ocean Isle, and got a beach house on the waterway at Ocean Isle Beach in North Carolina. And I got away from the gangs. She was still in rehab, and I told her if she wanted to help me make this family work, she could move down here. But we had to get away from Raleigh. We just had to. But it didn't stop me. I was still traveling back to Raleigh. I let the gangs take over my Raleigh house, trapping out of there. Mm-hmm. And I would come up there, bring them the money, and let them do their thing. And I would stay up there for 3 days and then come down, act like I'm living a normal life. But no, I was bringing packages down here. I was getting known down here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, selling, robbing the plugs down here, doing all kind of crazy things. I even came up with a bright idea on this app called Backpage, where you can hook up with services for women. I wasn't hooking up with the women for services. I was hooking up with them because I knew there was going to be prostitution, drugs, and people coming in and out selling drugs. And my mentality was, I'm going to get known in the back page with these females and give them free drugs, and wait for these dudes that they call their pimps or their connections or whatever, and I was going to rob them. And I did. That's what I did. It was all about that street thug mentality that I had, that I've done from 15 to 42. And I was going to just keep going till I died, to get rich and to keep my supplies and my connections and everything. And, you know, it's crazy, but, so I'm just going to leave it as that, and then I'm gonna fast forward to how I got to recovery.
Okay.
We bought another house. I sold the beach house. I bought a house here in Carolina Shores, North Carolina, which is right down the road from Calabash and Ocean Island Sunset. And I was gonna make this family work, and it got toxic. It got worse. I was bringing over some of the guys that were selling drugs for me. I was bringing some of my gang members down from Raleigh. Then when his mom found out I was doing, she wanted to be a part of it. So I wasn't selfish, and she convinced me, and I let her be a part of it. But she wasn't doing nothing but just taking my drugs and using them for her sake. And it got really toxic. It got so toxic where she was doing things behind my back she didn't want me to know she was doing. So I set up a baby monitor camera in the house, and I moved upstairs because it got so bad I couldn't stand being around her. And I was watching what things were going on downstairs in the house. But I was up there drinking and doing drugs, and I would leave to Raleigh and come back after I needed a break or whatever. But she got so bad that she physically started abusing me, hitting me. She at one time I cut her off from the drugs and my supply and everything, and my people that were selling for me. I got them to cut her off too. And it got to the point where I was holding Clark one time, and she literally got a kitchen knife. I didn't know she had it, and I was arguing with her where she was doing her drugs in the closet, and she literally grabbed the knife and stabbed me below the heart while I'm holding Clark. And I grew up not hitting women, but I should have knocked her head off, but I didn't. I don't know why. Like, I was hard in the streets, but when it came to women, no matter how far she pushed me, I never put my hands on her. I never hit her. I never did. I don't know why. It's kind of like I wanted her to physically do what she did, because I knew deep down inside. I never loved myself. I never loved myself. It was me against the world. It was F the world, and I was just living in it, and I was going to do whatever I had to do for me, and that's all it was. And it got really toxic. And then she let some of her friends. At this time, she was back home from her COVID, but then she DSS got involved the second time because she went on vacation with my sister. And I didn't know this until I almost got Clark DSS, because no one would tell me what was going on. She went on vacation with my sister, and they were at a water park, but she was messed up the whole time, getting high the whole time. And come to find out, my sister knew what I was doing, and she had control at the time. They were at a swimming pool, and he drowned in the pool, and my sister and some stranger had to jump in and save his life. And my sister said, "That's enough. That's enough." Mm-hmm. And when I realized that they were gone and wasn't coming home, I tried to get a hold of my sister and his mom, and I couldn't get a hold, and I knew something was going on, but they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't talk to me. But the whole time I'm doing my thing, and so that's why DSS got involved the second time. So she came home without Clark finally, and my sister wouldn't talk to me, whatever. And then DSS shows up at our door unannounced and drug tests both of us. And I failed my first drug test with DSS the second time, and she failed. And then it just got so bad. He never came home. My sister's friend she was working with ended up taking him because I didn't want him in the system.
Right. And
I didn't know who this lady was, but I met her a couple of times when we'd come visit with Clark when he was a baby. But it was what it was. And after Clark was gone, I didn't want to live again. And I've tried to commit suicide 3 times. I've cut my wrists with razor blades 4 or 5 times. I've taken sleeping pills, a whole bottle, trying not to wake up. It got so bad that I was just staying upstairs in the dark, listening to music, watching porn, watching what was going on downstairs. I was doing almost $8,000 to $10,000 worth of cocaine. I was shooting it, smoking it, snorting it. I would stay up for weeks at a time. I just wanted to die. I didn't want to live no more. I couldn't take it. I was losing my family. I lost Clark for the second time. And unfortunately, it could have been me at any time that I put Clark. He could have been dead. I could have got him taken away from DSS. But unfortunately, it was her the second time. And I'm not mad or upset anymore about it. But I don't know. So she had to go to IOP, and she was, driving a nice Lexus and all that. And these people were court-ordered in IOP. They're not ready to change their lives. I'm not saying all of them are not ready, but they're forced. They're court-ordered. Right. I've been there. Right. I know how it is. I wasn't ready, especially when I'm forced to do something I don't want to do.
It's got to be the addict's decision, or it's not going to work.
Exactly. I told her, I've been down this road. They're going to use you for rides. They're going to think you got money. They're going to convince you to ride this way instead of stay forward. And she's like, I'm grown. I can handle myself. I was like, okay, well, you ain't built like that, but good luck. And that's exactly what happened. She started bringing plugs over our house and sleeping with all of them. She met a guy in there. She started hooking up with him, and she wanted me out the picture at this time. And I wouldn't leave. It was both our houses. It was basically mine, but I wouldn't leave. I would rather stay there and go through the physical altercations and mentally and physical abuse through her than go start over again. Even though I had money, I just didn't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the insanity of alcohol and drugs is.
Right.
Yeah. And so anyways, I was upstairs and I was doing that. And then finally I know about God, but I don't have a relationship with him. And I cried out to God. I said, God, if something don't change, we're going to lose Clark forever and we're both going to die. And, God's got a funny sense of humor because he answered my prayers. He got me out of there. Not how I wanted to, but this is how he got me out of there. She was coming home from IOP, and I locked the doors, and I wouldn't let her in because she was out with one of the guys from IOP doing their thing. And when she finally came home, she couldn't get in. She got really pissed. I was drunk and high, and I finally let her in after she busted out the bedroom window to get in. And she had this long wooden stick, like a marker that they mark land in there, and she stabbed me in the back with that wooden stick and beat the living crap out of me, and I'm bleeding from head to toe, and the cops show up not even 5-7 minutes after she shows up. So I'm thinking, you already had this plan. This is a way to get me out of this house. Because she was calling the cops saying I was putting my hands on her like twice a month for like 6 months, and they didn't believe her. I never got arrested, but I was like, they're either going to believe you or think you're batshit crazy. And this time they finally believed her. They said she told them she took her pants off and said I pushed her down and kicked her in the butt and something. I don't know if she said I tried to physically take her pants off or whatever, but I knew she was cheating on her. And I saw a hickey down there where she took her pants off, but the cops ended up believing her. And I'm like, I do all my homework. I was recording the police there. I was cussing them. I was trying to fight them. I'm like, do your job. I'm bleeding from head to toe. There's no markings on her. We've already lost our son from DSS. Like, this is crazy. Y'all been out here for 6 months. And I was like, I already know what time it is. And I was oblivious. I was angry. I was pissed. I was drunk. I was high. And they arrested me, not her. And I went to the county here for 55 days. And I heard about this program. It's a structured program called Beach House Recovery here in Calabash. Mm-hmm. And so when I did my time served for assault on a female, simple assault on a female, I couldn't find a ride, and I don't associate with people down here, and all my boys were in Raleigh, so no one could pick me up. I had literally what I went in with is what I came out with, except for I didn't have shoes. They gave me jailhouse flip-flop shoes. I had no shirt, and I had sweatpants. And I walked from the county jail to my house. It took me all day long. But my mission was to get back home because she didn't follow a restraining order, which lasted a year. My time was served. I could go back home. I didn't know what I was going to do. But on that long walk, I ended up getting 4 Locos and was drinking the whole way. And I knew I had a stash in my house of drugs, and I was going to find that stash, and whoever's there, I was gonna kill him. Basically, I was gonna kill him, and because this is what she chose over me and her son, and as this is what I thought at the time. And I finally made it home. She found out I was home. She called the cops, ambulance, and fire truck, said that I couldn't be there by law, and she told the ambulance I was trying to commit suicide again. She told the fireman I was trying to burn the house down because she did not want me there, so she could come back home. And
she just called everybody.
Oh yeah, trying to get me away, trying to get me back out of there. And Now, to remind you, I put everything in her name because of what I was doing. I paid cash for everything, our house, our cars, everything. I got a trust fund set up in her name because her record was clean. If the feds found out what I was doing, they could seize and take everything. So I got a trust fund, put it in her name. Clark was set for life. We were set for life. But I don't know if that was the smartest thing I ever did, because we're not married and I don't have any of that. She's basically burnt it all since I blocked her of May of last year, or 2 years ago now, almost 2 years. But anyways, I got home. I saw all my stuff sold. The house was a wreck. You could see where they were beating down sheetrock and destroyed the house looking for my packages that I had hid. I guess they found it because I never found it. All my stuff was gone. There was guys' clothes all over the place. There was dog poop everywhere. I don't know. It was disgusting. It was a brand new house. And finally, I just broke down crying when the police and they were there. There's like, we can't arrest you because you did your time. She didn't file that restraining order. But you got to figure it out. You don't need to stay here. It's not going to get any better. And I was like, you're right. But I was drunk. I'm hard-headed. I don't listen. But I ended up making a phone call to Beach House Recovery. Now, remind you, you got to pay $1,500 to get in this program. But I told them my situation, and they were willing to let me stay there for 3 days to have somewhere to lay my head till I could figure it out. So they came and got me. They told me to grab 2 suitcases because I'm trying to grab everything. They're like, no, you can't bring all that stuff to this place. And they said, pick 2 suitcases. I picked 2 suitcases, and I went. And that was April 10th, 2019. I was drunk, beat red, crying, emotional, kicking and screaming. And I did my 3 days there, and then they said, if you want to stay, we'll let you stay, but you got to find a job, and you got to find ways to job, and you got to find ways to your court dates and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay. So I had to make a decision to make. Go back to the gangs in Raleigh or stay there, and I didn't want to stay there, to be honest with you. But I stayed, and I did it, 1 second at a time. And even though I didn't know what that was at the time, I did it 1 second at a time. I bit my tongue. And I don't know what came over me, but I went to every meeting. We went to AA and NA every week, every day. But I did more. I did 3 on Monday, 2 the rest of the week for the rest of the week. And I found a job making $8 an hour at a beach store. And I found a ride. So I stayed, and then, I'm still fighting for my life. And in the process, I still didn't want to give up on Clark either through DSS. And, it's
Did you
my
have
recovery.
any visitation with him or anything?
Nope, not at the time. Not since I got arrested and got out and been in the program. I had no contact with him, none. And I ended up taking suggestions from my counselor because he's the one. He came on Thursdays and Saturdays there, and I went to every meeting. I took suggestions, but I didn't have a sponsor at the time, and I wasn't working the steps. But first of all, I had to block all my contacts, her, his mom, and I didn't want to because I still was in that state if I was going to stay or not and try to save our relationship and our family. But I just took the suggestion anyway. And that was a battle because starting over 2 suitcases, I just left $1 million, didn't have my son, left his mom, starting over 2 suitcases, and didn't have anything. And that battle, I still battle with that, but it's getting better. I know how to make it in the streets, but I'll lose everything I worked so hard for.
Right.
But I ended up staying 7 months, and then I finally got in between the 7 months. I showed up to court now every court date, and I finally got visitation rights. But I'll remind you, he was in Asheville, North Carolina, and I'm here. So that's a 10-hour trip there and back. And I finally got 2-hour visitation rights. I started getting rights. As a single father, I had no rights from the beginning. and remind you, I knew how to pass my drug test, even though I was still getting high before the structured program. So I only failed one, but I had no rights whatsoever. It was up to mom, basically, is what they were dealing with. But she's failed every drug test. And then I came in the game late too, so I didn't stop fighting. But I would show up to every court date with a support network that I built. I have no family support,
right?
Nothing. I built a support network. I would bring at least 8 to 10 people to court with me every single court date for Clark to show the judge I'm really trying to change my life. When I totally surrendered to the program and got a sponsor, this is when the ball started rolling for me. I didn't even trust the process. I just kept doing what was suggested and put the hard footwork in. And I ended up getting 2-hour visitation rights through DSS in Asheville. I would pay somebody to take me up there and bring me back the same day so I couldn't miss work. Because by the time I was paying rent at the structured program, paying gas and living, I was living off $30 a week. I was barely making it. So
right.
I've never worked for $8 an hour in my entire life, plus do the right thing without stealing a car or driving a car or whatever I had to do to get around, and actually asking for help. But through the program, I got saved. I got baptized. I went every Sunday on my knees. This is before I even had a relationship with God. It was all free. I had to try something different when I totally surrendered. And
right.
I went every Sunday on my knees and prayed, and that's something I've never done before. But anyways, the judge told me that I had to find somewhere to live after visitation rights in order to try to see if I could get Clark back, because you're supposed to do 2 hours, then the nights, and then the weekends, and then go from there, right? But because he was so far away, the caseworker, I'm not down in women or sex or anything like that, but my caseworker was a lesbian, and she did not want me to have Clark. She was totally against it. So and it's all females in there, and I'm the only male in there besides my male lawyer that was court-appointed lawyer now, remind you. And he was young, and he didn't act like he really knew what he was doing. But they were all against me except for my lawyer, and they wanted to close the case. And I've seen cases go on for like 2 years or more. And they wanted to close my case for some reason, because she was the lady who had Clark wanted to adopt him because we were never going to get our lives together. And the judge subpoenaed her to court, the lady who had Clark, and she came up on the testimony, and she was like, that's my son, I'm his mother, they're never going to get their lives together. And the judge, she brought a photo album, like her and her family and Clark, like she's been raising him the whole time. And the judge was like, man, we appreciate what you're doing, but didn't they make it very clear to you that if one of them got their lives together, that by law we have to try to give their child back to the biological family or parents?
Right.
And she was like, yeah,
is the goal.
Yeah. And she said, yeah, they told me that. He's like, well, your motives are wrong, and I'm sorry, but them two is his real mom and dad, and we appreciate what you're doing. But the judge's whole attitude changed, and he told me that I had to find somewhere to prove that I could take care of Clark. And the whole time now, reminding you, Adam at Light and all them were against me. But I proved myself. I found somebody that was willing to let me and Clark come live with them. I found another person that was willing for me and Clark to live with them. I made the rides up there. I stayed committed. I did everything the judge asked me to do, with no license, no family support, making $8 an hour. But I made it happen somehow, some way. It was God, but I had to put the footwork in, and it was hard. But anyways, I did that. I moved in with a guy that came to our home group, and he let me stay there. And remind you, Clark wasn't home yet, but I set everything up, child-proofed it, all that. DSS came out. He did get to come home for one weekend, no overnights. He got to come home for one weekend. And then if all was good, we had to take him back that weekend. And then the next following weekend, he could come home. And if everything was good, she came out that Sunday. And if she didn't see anything wrong, he got to stay. So I got him on Valentine's Day, February 14th on Valentine's Day. Remind you, Valentine's Day is not just another day for me to get drunk and high. Never was special, never meant anything to me, but I was clear-headed, clean and sober, and that day was one of the best days of, now it's a Valentine's for me because me and Clark got kind of reunited. He wasn't, I didn't get full custody at the time, but he got to stay full time with me because everything I was doing was correct. And the judge told the caseworker and them, we're not picking up dirty rocks no more. Unfortunately, Mr. Meadows came in the game late, but he has proved himself and gone more and beyond out of his way to prove to y'all every loophole y'all throwing at us, we're picking up clean rocks from here on out. And he said, y'all are all going to be on board or I'll give him his son back today. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So, but he ended up coming on February 14th, full time, and then he stayed, and then the coronavirus came.
Right.
And I got laid off of my job at the beach store, and filed unemployment, and they didn't do their paperwork. And remind you, my boss was in my home group, and she's got 7 years clean and sober, and she's been my biggest supporter. And I don't know what happened, but as soon as Clark came home, she just stopped being committed and supportive and didn't do her paperwork. So I had to appeal unemployment, and I didn't get it till May. And on top of that, the guy I was staying with, he let his ex-wife move in with her. His ex-wife move in with him, and she didn't want me and Clark there after all this. And I'm like, what is going on, man? Like, so me and Clark hid in our room at his house because he's 3 years old. Like, I can't control a 3-year-old without him getting on that lady's nerves. So, but anyways, I started looking for a place, and I finally got my unemployment, and they gave me a lump sum check of the back pay and all that. So I reached out on Facebook looking for a place to live as a single father with a 3-year-old kid. And this guy on Facebook has 5 years clean and sober. He's a preacher's son, and he owns a beach house, and it's fully furnished. Everything's included, and he wanted to give me and Clark a chance. So I gave him the whole check for rent, deposit, everything. He didn't need a cosign or nothing because he heard my story. He wanted to give us a chance.
Nice.
So I remind you now, the whole time I've been trying to get Clark in daycare and all this. I still don't get food stamps. He's got Medicaid. I can't get government assistance. I don't know why the funding's so bad here, but I've been doing side jobs ever since, reaching out and people knowing, what I can do, and they would pick us up. And I finally got him in daycare because I was bringing him to the side jobs with me, but I finally got him in daycare, but they were willing to pick us up. And, I was making $10 an hour on the side, but I had to make sure we had to eat and everything. So, through this whole process, I would see my sponsor every Sunday. I still talk to my counselor once a week. I'm involved with the home group, boys and girls home group. She comes out. She's my voice. She helps me with everything because I'm not good on computers and trying to fill out things and all that. So, I through this whole process, I've gotten through the 12 steps with my sponsor. Remind you now, I've been through 3 sponsors. My first one didn't do any work with me. I had to fire him. My second one, I was going through the steps when I was in the structured program. We got to step 12, and then he got his 2 years and relapsed. So I had to find another sponsor. And the sponsor I wanted, I finally ended up getting. Anyways, he's got 14 years now clean and sober. He just celebrated a birthday. And he's been to prison. I relate to him. He did a thorough step work because I didn't know I was going to have to do my step work over, but I accepted it if I was going to. But there might have been something I missed with my second sponsor that I didn't get. And I don't want to get 2 years. I don't have 2 years yet. So I don't want that happening to me. So God, is, my God is doing so much for me what I can't do for myself.
Yeah,
I do have fear still. It's gotten better because every loophole that comes my way, I've knocked out. But my license, I can't get them till 2022. But They were suspended indefinitely. I have 8 DUIs. I got 2 of them dismissed. They were suspended indefinitely, but the lady heard my story. Unfortunately, my last DUI was less than 3 years. So by law, even if they can get them back, they said I have to wait 3 years.
Right.
There's nothing else I can do. So I'm doing this. I'm raising a 3-year-old son. I'm doing my recovery. You know what I'm saying? I'm finding rides.
When did they tell you that you got full custody of Clark?
Oh yeah. Sorry. So
it's like the best part of the story, Mike.
I know. I'm nervous. I'm all over the place, but I ended up, So through the Corona, thank you for bringing me back down. So through the coronavirus, this is amazing, but I'm gonna have an opportunity to thank the judge one day. But coronavirus got really bad. We couldn't come to court, and we had to do it virtual. My parenting caseworker came over. We set up the laptop computer, the judge, the DA, the DSS caseworker, and other people were on there. And he rewarded me full custody of Clark on 6/3/2022. That's June 3rd, 2022, virtual on a computer. And I didn't like it because I wanted to go shake the judge's hand and tell him that I'm so blessed because he kept his word if I was going to do the right thing, because he told me the ball was in my hand. Which end zone did I want to go to? And I said, I want to go to the winning end zone. And I would go to any lengths I had to in my recovery and fight for Clark. And he gave me full custody that day.
That's powerful. That is so awesome. Mike, your story is powerful. And when this episode airs, it is going to hit somebody. I mean, it's such an amazing story of quote unquote hopeless addict felon to full-time responsible single dad who won his son back, who fought and won. I mean, that's amazing. That is amazing. And I mean, I'm amazingly proud of you, and you should be amazingly proud of yourself. And you are a remarkable human being. You really are. And I really think that you're gonna, all that effort that, you know, because you wanted to be the top of the food chain, you know, on we'll call it the dark side. So now that you're over, you know, that you've come to the other side, you know, I think that you have the potential to be just as successful and an amazing dad. I mean, that boy is going to know that what you overcame. You know, he's going to know, he's going to hear this story one day, and it's going to be like, my dad never gave up.
Yep.
You know, that's thank you so much for being on this channel and sharing your story, Mike.
Thank